All right, so on your note card, the cosecant of x is equal to 1 over the sine of x. Write fairly small, because you'll fill up this note card pretty well. But you don't have to write tiny. But yeah. Cosecant of x is 1 over sine of x. The secant of x equals 1 over cosine of x. The tangent of x is equal to 1 over the cotangent of x. So what would the cotangent of x equal? 1 over tangent of x. In addition to that, the tangent of x is equal to the sine of x over the cosine of x. And the cotangent of x would be equal to cosine of x over sine of x. So those are the 6 basic trig functions. Or I should call them basic trig identities. That's what I should call them. Because the next one are called the Pythagorean identities. So the first of the 3 Pythagorean identities is this. Sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x equals 1. Sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x equals 1. The second of them is secant squared of x plus tangent squared. Secant squared of x equals tangent squared of x plus 1. And cosecant squared of x equals cotangent squared of x plus 1. Then we come to the odd functions, where the sine of negative x equals negative sine of x. The cosecant of negative x equals negative cosecant of x. The tangent of negative x equals negative tangent of x. And the cotangent of negative x equals negative cotangent of x. Then come the even functions. The cosine of negative x equals positive cosine of x. And the secant of negative x equals positive secant of x. That's all our identities for the first section. Okay, that'll be all the identities for the first section. We'll have identities in the third and fourth sections of this chapter as well. But we'll wait till April for that. So don't lose this note card. Okay, so now don't write any of the other stuff that I'm about to present on the note card, because if you have illegal information on your note card, you won't be able to use your note card on a quiz or test. So, the other stuff, is everybody done writing the even and odd functions? So now we get to notes. All right. So, we are going to simplify expressions today. So what our goal is to do is to turn other trig functions into sine and cosine. Then we're going to simplify, if possible. All right, so let's say we have the cosecant of x over the cotangent of x. We want to turn these into sines and cosines and then simplify what we get. Well, from your note card, what is the cosecant of x equal to in terms of sines and cosines? 1 over sine of x. And from your note card, in terms of sines and cosines, what is cotangent equal to? Cosine of x over sine of x. Okay, so we took a nice little fraction and made it a complex fraction. How can we get rid of a complex fraction? By multiplying by the denominator of the denominator. So let's multiply by the denominator of the denominator. Multiply both top and bottom by sine of x. Up here, these cancel to be what? 1. Down here, these cancel to be cosine of x. So it's 1 over cosine of x. So cosecant over cotangent is 1 over cosine. And we could say 1 over cosine equals secant, but for the first problems today, we just want them written in terms of sine and cosine. Just written in terms of sine and cosine. All right. So let's say we have sine of x over cosecant of x plus cosine of x over secant of x. Okay? Is anything not written in terms of sines and cosines there? Well, yeah, I see a cosecant on the bottom of the first one. What is the same as cosecant? 1 over sine of x. Not sine of x over 1, it's 1 over sine of x. What is cosine the same as? 1 over, or what is secant the same as? 1 over cosine of x. All right. So here we have a complex fraction each part. So the first one I'm going to multiply top and bottom by sine of x, the denominator of the denominator. Second one I'm going to multiply both the top and bottom by cosine of x. So these cancel, so I get sine squared of x. These cancel, so I get plus cosine squared of x. What's sine squared plus cosine squared equal to? 1. So all this big hoo-ha here just simplifies down to be 1. Okay? So that's pretty nice. Let's do another one. Let's say we have sine of x cotangent of x plus 1 times cosine of x minus 1. What's my only thing there that's not a sine or a cosine? Cotangent. So we're going to change that. So we're going to call this sine of x times, what's cotangent the same as? Besides 1 over tangent, we got to use sines and cosines here. Cosine of x over sine of x. What happens? Ain't canceling I can do? I can cancel a sine of x with a sine of x, right? So I get cosine of x plus 1 times cosine of x minus 1. Oh, I have 2 binomials. I can multiply them together by using FOIL. Cosine times cosine squared. Outers is minus cosine of x. Inners is plus cosine of x. Last times last is minus 1. What happens when you add negative cosine of x to cosine of x? Cancels. So it's cosine squared of x minus 1. And you say, I'm fully simplified. Not so fast, my friend. Remember our sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x equals 1, right? What if I would subtract cosine from each side? No, let's not do that. Let's say, what if I would subtract sine from each side? Cosine squared of x equals 1 minus sine squared of x, right? So that's what cosine squared of x equals. Well, if we subtract 1 from each side, cosine squared of x minus 1 would equal negative sine squared of x. So this cosine squared of x minus 1 equals a negative sine squared of x. That's where we'd end up. Wow. So the biggest thing today is we're going to figure out how to turn things into sines and cosines and simplify away. Okay? One last problem. Okay? So let's say we have 1 plus the sine of alpha, the cotangent of alpha, and the secant of alpha, and we're all dividing that by the secant of alpha. So, can we just cancel our secant of alpha on the top with our secant of alpha on the bottom? I wish it would be that easy. If we could just cancel, that would be nice. But you can't do that because there's addition in the numerator. So you can't do that. So anything that's not a sine or a cosine, let's turn into a sine and cosine. So 1 plus sine of alpha. What's cotangent of alpha the same as? Cosine of alpha over sine of alpha. What's secant of alpha the same as? 1 over cosine of alpha. Secant of alpha is 1 over cosine of alpha, right? So if we cancel, what does the numerator become? 1 plus 1, which, of course, is 2, for those of you forward-thinking people. So we get 2 over 1 over cosine of x. That's a complex fraction, isn't it? How can I simplify a complex fraction? Multiply by the denominator of the denominator. Those cancel. So in the end, you get 2 cosine of x. So all of this equals 2 cosine of x. Okay? That's the types of problems you'll be seeing today. Okay? So, for your assignment for tomorrow, yeah, we have class again tomorrow. We will be doing 7 through 16, all of them, on page 165. So that's 10 problems to do. Well, yeah, that's for tomorrow, so it's due tomorrow.